Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition, a Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. Got a lot to talk about today. We'll have Brent Beaird. We'll talk about college football with our Heisman Trophy voter and college football analyst. And then we'll have one of the greatest players to ever wear a uniform here in softball. Skylar Wallace will join us around 8:30 or so. In the meantime, let's head to the Titan MRI hotline courtesy of Comfort Temp, and we are joined by our good friend Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How you doing, bud?
Shane, it's amazing that we have had another National Signing Day come and go. Rather quiet, to say the least. But look, it's a little bit of a quiet period for college football, but there's still a lot going on.
Yeah, there is. Speaking of that, let us know what is going on from an administration standpoint with college football.
Yeah, and I'll be brief about a lot of this. There's not a whole lot going on, at least that we know of, with conference realignment. Our mantra has always been expansion is never dead, it's only dormant. So it's kind of quiet. The Pac-12 is looking for another team or two. Starting next year, the Pac-12's Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Utah State, along with Oregon State, Washington State. FSU Clemson is still there. Those two teams in the ACC are trying to still figure things out. They're both still suing each other. There's talk about more money may mean that FSU and Clemson may stay. That's not been determined yet. Athletic directors from the SEC and the Big Ten are meeting in New Orleans on February the 19th. So that's going to be, will determine a lot of where we're going. And we're going to have, again, meetings for the playoffs. That's coming up around the corner. The Rules Committee's meeting at the end of the month. What to do about fake injuries is a big deal with that. On April the 7th, besides it being my birthday, there's going to be, they hope, a settlement with the House versus NCAA, which means each team will get around $20 million. That still has details to be worked out. The transfer portal cranks up again in April the 16th. The draft is April 24th. SEC spring meetings is May 27th. Media days in Atlanta this year for the SEC is July 14th through 17th. So, Shane, I'll stop there, but does that give you a little bit of indication of what's to come over the next few months?
Yeah, a lot going on, and I'm trying to pull up YouTube. It's messing up on my computer. I can't pull it up on the other screen. I don't know what the hell's going on. But in the meantime, Brent, I mean, you've been doing this a long time. Yesterday was National Signing Day, and I don't think anybody cared or paid any attention to it, unless you were, the FCS type schools, kids signing with smaller type schools. But I think they need to do something about it, because I mean that used to be a big day in college athletics.
They do. I mean, currently where we are is we've got two signing days. One is the one in December, which is the first Wednesday in December, and that frankly is taken over signing day. The other signing day was yesterday, the first Wednesday in February, and it basically has come down to next to nothing. listen, in the top 50 players in 24/7 sports, there was one guy, Ty Haywood, who's an offensive tackle. He had originally committed to Alabama. He decommitted, and then he signed with Michigan. So he was the only one. And to give you an indication, the top 10 classes, and this may have changed a little bit, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Bama, Oregon, Auburn, LSU, A&M, Michigan, and Florida. I think Florida may have gone up a little bit in the rankings, but it was a good class for them. So, Shane, you're right. I'm not going to say it was much ado about nothing, but it was not anywhere close to what we're used to.
Yeah, for sure. And I failed to mention yesterday was a great day for female athletes around the country,
Yes.
regardless of what you support and whatever. It did. I thank God they got the men out of the women's sports. Makes no
Yep.
sense to me. Anybody that thinks that's okay has a screw loose in their head. I don't know how else to say it. But congratulations to that, because I have a lot of friends that have daughters that were athletes that are already out of that college or what have you. But for high school girls and whatever, it was total nonsense, and good thing that happened for sure.
Amen.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I don't want to get into politics, but it is what it is, and it needed to be done. The top 10 recruiting classes based off of this year, Gators are in the top 10, but there's 7 SEC teams ahead of them.
Yeah, I mean that's just the way it is, right? So, and Texas was first. That might surprise some people. Georgia's second. Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, Auburn, LSU, A&M, Michigan, Florida. So, it was a pretty typical top 10 and 24/7. All the recruiting. Now, basically, what this is the compilation of recruiting over the last several months. It wasn't just what happened or didn't happen yesterday. So Shane, that's a list we're pretty much used to seeing, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure people may have seen this, they may not have seen it, but the spring games are coming up. A lot of teams are going to start spring ball here and sometime in March. You usually have your spring game sometime in April. Nebraska Cornhuskers said they're not having a spring game.
Well, or if they have one, it may not be televised. What you're seeing, or some of these coaches reacting to having their players being poached by someone else. So Matt Rule is one of the first ones, well, not one of the first ones, but he recently said that he's not sure what he's going to do with this. Steve Sarkisian of Texas also said the same thing. He's not sure what he's going to do to do it. Now, people may remember Lane Kiffin last year had basically, and I'm not kidding about this, basically had sack races and relay runs in dunking contest to keep from having a game. And we may see a little bit more of that. See, the other problem with this is, particularly like school with Nebraska, if you have a spring game, you're going to have 60 to 70,000 people at a spring game. The problem is, if you don't have a spring game, that hurts your city as far as hotel rooms and restaurants and things of that nature. So I'm hoping that there will be some kind of compromise here, that they can still have spring games, talk about their program, and at least give fans something they can watch.
Yeah. Text on the Take No More text line. I think this is from TJ in Orlando. He says, "Good morning. How would you like to be Cooper Flagg's twin brother? He's still in high school and averaging 2 points a game. Crazy the difference in talents." I was not even aware he had a twin brother, but that is crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
That's nuts. All right, Brent. Let's go ahead and we talked about the combines, all that stuff's coming up, but let's go ahead and jump into a kind of around the league.
Sure.
Alabama is going to have their fourth consecutive season with a different offensive coordinator. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Ryan Grubb. Ryan Grubb was with Kalen DeBoer at Washington. Then he went to the Seahawks. He was there 1 year. That didn't work out, so he became available, and he is now the Alabama offense coordinator. When Nick Saban was head coach, he actually tried to hire Grubb, but for whatever reason, that they couldn't make it work. And to Shane's point, they've had Nick Sheridan was last year, Tommy Rees was 23, Bill O'Brien, yes, that Bill O'Brien was 2022. So Grubb is this year, and when Grubb and DeBoer have been together, they've done well. I mean, offensively, Washington really was a force to be reckoned with when they were together. So, look, I think that they've got a good team coming back, and with an experienced offensive coordinator in Grubb and a more accurate quarterback, which believe me won't take much. I think Alabama will be better offensively this year.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterbacks, there's going to be a quarterback battle in Tuscaloosa during spring ball.
Yeah, there will be, and that's going to be interesting. Ty Simpson's got the most experience. He's a former five-star recruit who came from Tennessee. Hasn't done a whole lot, but he is getting better every year. Austin Mack, who's a transfer from Washington. Keelan Russell is a five-star recruit they really like. In fact, I'm understanding some of the recruiting analysts mind that he is now the number one commitment in the nation. So, but anyway, he would still be a freshman. So there will be a battle. Jalen Milroe, as people know, is going or trying to go to the NFL. So there will be a different quarterback in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, Florida victorious, proud NIL partner of the Florida Gators, joined today to help make Florida victorious. Here on the Titan MR text line, a text from Monty in Lynchburg, Virginia. This has been discussed. He says, do you think there ever will be spring games between different schools?
Well, a lot of people love to see that.
Yeah.
The coach is going to have to sign off on it, and there's a lot of excuses not to do it. But it is a good question. It is a good point that there's been a lot of talk about what could be done to spring games that would make them more exciting and fan-friendly, et cetera. So and I mean, it's still being discussed. It's not being ignored because, frankly, in the long run, it would be another revenue source if they really wanted to do something with it.
Yeah, and I could have seen it happen years ago. But in today's world, and we let's just talk about what they're talking about at Nebraska. They don't want other coaches to see, maybe some young talent that they can try to steal away. And if you're playing in a game here in the swamp against, let's just say they set up a game with FIU, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, FIU may have some this receiver diamond in the rough. Well, the portal opens up right after spring ball for about 7 or 8 days. The Gators could snag him away from FIU just because they saw him in a game. So it'd be interesting for sure. Andy's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mellon Law. Brent, how fitting was it that TCU's Jack Besh was the MVP of the Senior Bowl after his brother tragically passed away in New Orleans?
Yeah, that was really apropos. That was just a really difficult thing to happen, and that was quite a celebration at the Senior Bowl. So, yeah, absolutely. By the way, any TCU fans, TCU starts the season on Labor Day night with North Carolina and Bill Belichick's first game.
Yeah. I want to say Jack Besh he started his career at LSU.
Yeah, you're right.
And transferred to TCU. He's a good receiver for sure. What's going on the Plains? They had a really good recruiting season, and I think people think Auburn may be turning turning the corner a little bit.
Maybe so. They got Eric Singleton, a wide receiver. Remember, he was at Georgia Tech. Xavier Chaplin is an offensive tackle. They really needed Horatio Fields as a wide receiver that they got too. Interesting quarterback battle at Auburn. They did get Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma, Stanford's Ashton Daniels, and also Deuce Knight, who flipped from Notre Dame to Auburn. So that's basically your quarterback room at Auburn, who will be battling for it. I mean, they gave Jackson Arnold a lot of money. My gosh, I heard this week from I saw this on a podcast that they may have given him $4 million or something like that. I'm not quite sure that would be justified with him, but anyway, that's what they've done. So we'll see where it goes. But I think Jackson Arnold will be their quarterback this year. Peyton Thorne is no longer on the roster.
Dan Bond says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Menlo, Florida A&M's for spring game and have their band play in the swamp. I agree with that.
Beautiful.
The Marching 100, I think they call themselves. Barone says they should have a spring game and then a concert on campus where the proceeds go to NIL, make an entire event out of it to raise money for NIL. Good thought. Good thought. You got to get the right artist in there for people to buy tickets for sure. All right, the Gators have hired a new linebacker coach.
They have Robert Bala, going to be co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. He was at Washington. He was at Alabama. So he certainly has been around. He was an analyst at Liberty in 2022. Gerald Chapman helped me on this, Shane, the D-line coach. My understanding is he signed an extension to stay at Florida.
Yeah, I believe I saw that last night.
Yeah, he had an interview with the Bears, but decided to stay with Florida. So good for him and good for Florida.
Yeah, for sure. And then, as we mentioned, I think Billy talked to the press yesterday or maybe the day before. He is going to handle the play calling as we all expected. And then he also said that they may look for some more players. I mean, obviously they will once the spring portal window opens up, and that's after the spring game. So it's kind of good because you'll probably have some guys leave the program as well. I would think in a lot of schools when they see, hey, I'm buried second or third on the depth chart, maybe I have an opportunity somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, what Shane's talking about is the transfer portal starts on April the 16th. It goes through the 25th, and with the spring game on April the 12th, as there'll be a lot of spring games on April the 12th in the SEC. That will allow teams to get spring over and get to the portal then.
Yeah. What's going on up in Athens, Georgia?
Well, Georgia obviously had a good signing class, as they always do. Jaden Rashada, this won't surprise people, entered the portal in the fall-winter window. But on three, I'll give them credit for this, said Rashada is planning to spend the next few months training and focus on the spring window for finding his next school. So we'll see. We will see if that happens, frankly. So, and Georgia's got their own quarterback room. Gunnar Stockton, I believe, is going to be the starter. But they've got Ryan Pulinski, and then they've got Hezekiah Melinder and Ryan Montgomery, some names that we probably are not real familiar with. But they'll have a little bit of a competition in the spring, but I still think Stockton will be the guy.
Yeah. Mark asked a question here on YouTube brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Is DeBoer an offensive guy or defensive guy or just a CEO type? He's an offensive guy.
He's an offensive guy. Yeah. He's got a really good offensive mind. So that's what he prefers.
Yeah. He called plays when he started coaching and called plays at Indiana, then called plays for a little bit at Washington, and then let the guy they just hired take it over. Right. I think it's last year. LSU, Brent, there's all kinds of stuff all over Twitter about LSU, Brian Kelly, how he treats players and what have you. Just your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, it certainly hadn't looked good for them at all. I mean, they've got a player that's got a lot of health issues, and the family basically went on. I don't. It may have been Twitter or a podcast or something like that, and said, "Well, our son has had a lot of health issues, and where is Brian Kelly?" Well, Brian Kelly took umbrage to that, and he said, "Well, I've been up there to visit with him, and we've had someone from our staff be able to do the same thing. So you've got a little bit of he said on that one. Frankly, LSU is trying to get Alex Atkins for a role in their offensive staff. He was at Florida State as their offensive coordinator." And they also brought in Lance Guidry, who is the Miami D coordinator. So he is on board now. Their spring game is April the 12th, along with everybody else's. And again, Garrett Nussmeier coming back. Shane and I like Garrett Nussmeier and think he's a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, he's a very good quarterback, for sure. All right, anything new in Ole Miss other than Lane just continually hitting the portal very hard?
Yeah, and they did again. And this can be another really good. And again, the thing he's done that eventually is going to get him in the playoffs is he has really changed his mind on defense and really decided that they really have got to bring some guys in, and that which is going to be very important with them. So yeah, they're in the top 10 in the portal and all the rank. They're actually rankings for portal along with your recruits. So they're doing very well. Austin Simmons is going to be the quarterback, replacing Jackson Dart, who is going to the NFL. And I know you're very familiar with Ole Miss and Dart, but Dart's getting a lot of love as far as with the NFL draft and where he may go with that right now.
Yeah. Frank's text on the Titan Mark text line. If Muschamp left Georgia for family reasons, why did he want to be the DC at Florida? It seems there must have been another reason for him to leave. I think he's still part of Georgia's program. He's not an analyst anymore. He's more of a consultant, if I'm
Right.
not mistaken.
Yeah.
Because his son is a backup quarterback somewhere on the depth chart at Vanderbilt, so I know he was spending time there. And I don't know. I had heard the rumors about him wanting or the DC. I don't know if that's true or not, quite honestly.
Yeah. I don't. He and Kirby have always been
Yeah.
friends.
Yes.
But no, I that's my understanding is what Shane is saying, that they're just his kids are at an important time in their life, and he just wanted more freedom to be with them. I mean, look, Muschamp's is good enough coordinator. Whenever he wants to step back in and do it, he'll certainly have some people interested in being able to do that. So, but I've heard about the same thing you have.
Yeah, for sure. The Texas Longhorns, obviously, we're in the Final Four once again. Got a lot of guys coming back. We know the Arch Manning hype, what have you. They'll be coming to Gainesville late in the season. But boy, they just, I think Sark has done a phenomenal job with that program, and they're not going anywhere, Brent.
No, absolutely not. I mean, they may be even predicted to be in the preseason polls. That they're either going to be number one or close to it. I can assure you of that. They're hiring Memphis director of recruiting Josh Dunson. They had a good transfer class: Travis Shaw, Cole Brevard, Brad Spence. I know a lot of those names may not be familiar, but they've got to get some defensive tackles, and that's what they did with Shaw and Brevard. So that's going to be very important for them. Also, Shane, if I may, real quick, on Oklahoma, Michael Tarquin, their offensive lineman, who's familiar, obviously, with folks here, is going to the NFL. So I wanted to mention that. That's his next career move.
Yeah, he started his career here. I want to say his Baselli's daughter is either married or engaged to him, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be interesting to see now with Tony in charge of the Jags if
Yeah,
Tarquin
really.
doesn't wear a Jaguar uniform.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think he's the one of those linemen that transferred, either married his daughter or was engaged. I think it's Tarquin. I'm not 100% sure
Mm-hmm.
though. Give us some nuggets, Brent, before we get you out of here.
Yeah, glad to do that. Tennessee's added a special teams coordinator. Michael Eckler is going to Nebraska. They had a good transfer portal himself, Sam Pendleton, who is a linebacker. Amari Jefferson, wide receiver, came from Alabama. I think he will help them. Texas A&M, Casey Concepcion is a really good wide receiver. Micah Hudson is a wide receiver too. So that's what they really needed. What were to replace some of their receivers. Here's a name from the past. North Carolina is expecting the name Natron Means. You remember that name, Jane?
Oh yeah,
as its running backs coach. So that's interesting to see that. And Notre Dame is going to be hiring or has hired Chris Ash as their new defensive coordinator. A lot of folks are familiar, I think, with that name also. So still, Shane, plenty going on in college football, even though we're not on the field.
yeah. Andy wants to know, when will colleges start looking at Peyton Manning's 13-year-old son? Let's see, 13. He's probably in what, the 6th grade?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
They won't notice him until he's in the 8th or 9th grade. And
yeah.
again,
Well,
if he ain't a certain size, they ain't gonna look at him.
You're right about that. Here's the funny thing about that, though. He was, was it the Senior Bowl? There was somewhere where he was with his dad on the field.
Pro Bowl.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. And he was throwing a lot. And you know, look, it's a 13-year-old throwing passes. That's the reality of it, like Shane said. But they were, and at 13, they were impressed with his arm. So he's got a way to go, fortunately, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Before we let you go, this day in sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit Union. 2005. I think, Brent, you had to be at this game. The Alltel Stadium at Super Bowl. The Patriots beat the Eagles 24-21. Deion Branch from New England was your MVP.
That's hard to believe. It's been that long now, hasn't it, Shane?
Yep, 20 years.
Wow. That's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's this day in sports. Brent, good stuff as always, my friend. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Always a pleasure, bud. Take care.
All right, that's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan & More hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. We're going to take a quick time out. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little Gator softball with one of the best that's ever played, Skylar Wallace. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. We'll be right back.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union,
International Diamond Center,
Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Cogent Bank, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Sign, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Unleash the Inferno.
Naysayers. setbacks, injuries. Life throws a lot of hurdles your way. The key is just keep jumping them.
Bandits, the Blaze, the Talons, and the Volts. I got drafted to the Bandits with GM Jenny Dalton-Hill and Stacy Newman. So I'm really, really excited to work with those two ladies who've made huge impacts and have had tremendous success in their careers. And we'll basically be on that team for the entire season or the duration of the season. So I'm really excited to see how we're able to connect with our teammates, really build relationships, and really just get after and play ball.
When do y'all start that?
I report the very end of May, and we have about a week of training camp, and then we'll start games.
All right, good deal. All right, let's go back to your Gator career. Obviously, I follow softball. I think softball and Gator football are my two favorite sports on campus because it's
I love that.
fast-paced, a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I've watched it ever since Coach Walton has taken over because his son and my son kind of grew up together. But there's the Mount Rushmore of Gator softball is Lauren Hager, Amanda Lorenz, and Skylar Wallace. That's it. Just talk about your career at Florida. You know, you transferred from Alabama, kind of the difference in the programs and what it was like to play for Tim Walton.
Yeah, so I transferred from Alabama in the spring of 21, and that was right before they had changed the eligibility rule and conference transfers. So I actually was had to sit out a year. So in that spring, I sat out, and the tough part about it is I was doing every single thing the team was doing, except when it came time to travel or play games, I was not able to do that. So I had to kind of find a way to really help build the team and be part of the team in a different way, and make sure that I was still getting what I needed as an athlete and preparing for the following season. And Coach Walton did not, hold me short of that. I mean, I was out there taking extra reps. I was running bases for, it felt like 3 hours of practice. I was just running bases for the team. And just doing all the things I could. And then obviously in the dugout, just asking questions, helping do this, help scouting, what I was seeing, kind of picking pitches, all the things. So I was kind of figuring out a different role. And I think that really impacted and changed my perspective on the game and just like my leadership abilities going into the following year. And I mean, I got to give all credit to Coach Walton and his staff because the amount of time, the effort, the care, the love that they give each athlete to really be as successful as you want to be. Like, they're going to leave it in your hands. So it's there for you to grab, and they're there for you, but they're also not going to, hand it over and make you do something. So I got to get a lot of credit because I wanted extra reps. I wanted extra time. I wanted extra hitting. Like, I wanted all of that because I had goals I wanted to reach, and I knew they were going to be able to help me get that. And then just the culture from Alabama to Florida is just the biggest difference is every Gator wants to see you be successful. There's so many resources. There's so many things, so many people that you can connect with to make it possible to achieve what you want to achieve. And I think that was like the biggest thing is there's never a no, or we can't do that, or nah, we don't have that. Like, it's a, you know what, let's think about that and adjust to this. And, or, oh yeah, we have this, let me connect you with this person. And it's Gators are everywhere. I mean, I've gone to multiple airports, multiple cities, and every single time there's at least one Gator, and we'll just look at it, go Gators. And it's just a common passing. So Gator Nation is strong and powerful. And I think that was the biggest thing. It's just the culture that is created in Gainesville, and the Gator Nation as a whole was the biggest thing, and something I will forever cherish in my heart.
Andy's question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. He wants to know what a day in the life of Skylar Wallace is like right now.
Right now. So right now I wake up about 6:30. I kind of do my routine, make sure I'm getting hydrated, eating some protein. And then I go to training about 8:30. I head to the gym. We'll do hitting for about an hour, hour and a half, depending on things. Lift about 10 to 11:30 is lift. Then it's come home, eat lunch. And then usually that kind of changes from there, depending if I have meetings or brand deals or content I have to edit, whatever that is, I'll use that time. And then about 4 or 5 o'clock, I try to kind of start winding down and doing, things for myself throughout nighttime. And then bedtime is 9 o'clock. I'm in the bed, I'm shutting it down and recovering for the next day. And then we do it all over again.
James texts on the Titan MR text line. He wants to know, what is the greatest moment in your Gator career?
The first one that comes to mind, and it's kind of selfish, you can say, but I definitely think my favorite is the game I played against Georgia. I had 3 home runs that game, and it was just an intense environment. We were playing at home. We don't like the Bulldogs, and we go at each other, and it was just grind mode. We made some errors, they made some errors, and we ended up coming out on top. But just the mindset I had at the plate, the success that I had at the plate that weekend was unreal, especially if anyone, behind closed doors has seen the struggle I was going through and just the mental toughness I was, facing. To see that play out and all the work that I was working on the 2 weeks prior to that weekend, it was unreal. And my family was there, everyone was going crazy. It was awesome.
Yeah. There are many car washes in Gainesville, but only one Gallo car wash, locally owned by UF alum, and the only car wash that provides NIL opportunities to Gator athletes. Locations on the Northwest 13th Street, Southwest Willingston Road, and coming soon to Jonesville. We're speaking with Skylar Wallace, National and SEC Player of the Year for Gator softball on the Titan MR Hotline. Let me ask you this. Let's talk about this year's team. Obviously, some publications have them #1 in America. You got like 5 All-Americans coming back. They don't have Skylar Wallace, though. But a lot of the girls on this team. What's your, I don't want to say prediction, but we expect them. I mean, I always say death, taxes, and Gator softball in Oklahoma City are kind of a given thing, right? So don't we expect them to be back, even though OU and Texas are now in the league?
Yeah, I 100% expect them to be back at the World Series this year, and going really, really far with that. They're going to make a huge run. I feel it in my bones. Even though I'm not part of the team, I think, just, the impacts I had, and I think those are still around. And then the seniors and the juniors they're more than prepared for the opportunity that they have right now and to lead that team to really good things. I've heard nothing but good things so far from the coaching staff and other people and just the players the chemistry has been unreal. It's like we struggled with chemistry going into the season, and it clicked for us, right at the beginning, mid-season. And they said it just picked up from there and just kept rolling. Like the momentum kept rolling with that. So I think they're really connected with one another. There's a lot of talent. I'm going to go watch them tomorrow, actually. So I'm really excited for that, and really just to see how they grind and work together. I know they have a big target on their back, so I really just hope that they can put that aside and really just focus on the group as a whole and just really grind out the wins and the losses and everything that comes in between.
Dan's question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, wants to know what it was like the first time you played against Alabama.
The first time I played against Alabama was a little, I don't want to say unsettling. I don't think that's the word, but I was a little nervous for sure. But I always say, you can be nervous, but just keep keep the birds in a V. Keep them flying straight, keep them going together, keep the mind right. And honestly, it was a point of I was happy. I was at the place I wanted to be at, where I needed to be too. And so it was just at the point of just playing ball and doing the little things, not letting them get into my head, not letting little things, get under my skin. There's people chirping in the crowd. I had seen stuff all over social media weeks before. And just being in their presence, there's always that type of tension, but I was controlling what I can control. And that was my mindset, my attitude, and my presence. So that was all I was thinking about.
Where was your favorite SEC venue to play at?
I think LSU and A&M have pretty nice facilities. So I would say those two. The fields play great, the facilities are super nice, and the crowds are both very insane at those locations. So I think those are my top two.
Sharon in Memphis, Tennessee on the Titan MR text line wants to know, Skylar, is there any coaching in your future?
This is a question that has came up quite a bit lately. Holy. I'm not going to say no. But I will say for right now, I kind of want to figure out my life and my career and focus on that. I have big goals of trying to be in the 2028 Olympics. So trying to focus on that and what can drive me to there, and make that a possibility. But I always told Coach Walton, if I was going to coach, I would coach for him. So we shall see how long he sticks around and see kind of what happens. I'm not going to say no, but not anytime soon.
Yeah. Speaking of the Olympics, explain to people kind of how that process works to get on that team.
Yeah, so we've kind of had some changes in the past years, but typically you will do a tryout in the end of the year around New Year's time. So you'll have all these athletes come and try out, and you'll go through the whole process of infield, hitting, running, testing, all the things. And from there, there's a selection committee. And that committee will kind of select the, 20 to 25 athletes that they're going to have on the roster. That gets announced, a month or so afterwards. And then from there, it is just straight training all summer long, or time before preparing for that competition. And then, it's unreal the amount of practice and time and skill work that you're doing. I played on the U19 team, and I always talk about it to my friends. You have no idea, like college you thought was hard, doing that was hard. 19 years old, and I'm practicing for 6-7 hours a day with breaks and meetings in between. Like it was like a pro sport at that point, but it was eye-opening, it was rewarding, and it was the coolest experience because you're not only representing yourself, but you're representing your country as a whole. And that is a way bigger thing than any university you can think of. So it was unreal. It is tough though.
I can't even imagine. It's crazy. I wanted to ask you, I want to say, was Francesca Anea hired last year or 2 years ago as an assistant coach?
2 years ago. Yep, she was there my last year.
Yeah, so I've always wondered how, you girls, because most of the time it was just Tim and Eric and all these male coaches. What did Francesca bring, kind of the female voice who kind of had been through all the stuff that Coach Walton put y'all through? Did that help you girls, like in the locker room, in the dugout, or what have you?
Absolutely. Having someone who can connect with you on that level and understand kind of the female mind. Coach Walton does a really good job, and he has a daughter, so he kind of gets it. But no offense to any male, you just don't really get the female unless you are one. So having someone advocate for us or be able to speak to us in a different way and connect with us on a different level. That was just huge because I can come into the dugout. I'm frustrated. I could just blurt out what I want to her, and she's gonna be like, I get it. She's been through it. She understood how softball works. She understood the struggles. She was a mom. She's gone through the ups and downs of life. I mean, she just had a lot to bring to the table to help us be the best that we could be. And just, like you said, speak up and advocate for us on little things that a male might not see or tend to understand. So first off, she's a great human, a great person to be around, awesome family, but just her ability to shift her mind to that coaching, but also be a real person with you and as a woman to woman, it was so needed to have that and a male dominant staff.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, a couple more things. We'll get you out of here. Robert on the Titan of our text line wants to know, Skylar, what other Gators are playing in that league?
I think there's 4 of us. So me, Amanda Lorenz, Kelsey Stewart Hunter. Oops. Sorry,
Yeah.
Kelsey. Sorry, Stewie. And then Alicia Ocasio. I think that's
Okay.
the 4 that we have right now in the league.
Are
I
y'all
think
any of them on your team?
no, I'm Bandits. Lily or Alicia is on, I want to say Blaze, and I think Stewie and Lorenz are on the Volts together. So them 2 are together, but all of us are kind of separated.
Is Michelle Moultrie still playing, or is she like retired?
I think she retired. She
Yeah,
was on the
she played
Olympic team
forever.
though. Like I want to say she was with the USA, but I don't think she's playing in the AU or professional area world. I don't think I could be mistaken though.
Yeah.
But she, oh my gosh, I remember watching her when I was little. She's unreal, electric.
All right. I'm going to ask you this question because I'm a big numbers guy. I want to know why Skylar Wallace wears number 17.
Good question. Honestly, I didn't have a choice. Kind of. There was only a limited amount of numbers when I transferred in. And so he gave me this list and I wanted 1, 2, 22, 33, like the numbers I had worn in the past. He's like, yep, nah, you're not getting those. And I'm like, okay, well that kind of sucks. Maybe I should go somewhere else. So I gave him a hard time for that. So he gave me these lists of numbers and 17 was on there. And so I'm kind of looking it up. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to wear a number, I want it to mean something. So I see 17. I'm like, oh, my dad's birthday, October 17th. I'm like, okay. I'm like, but I don't really want to be just my dad's number. Like I love that man, but like I want it to have a true meaning. So I looked it up and number 17 actually means independence and new beginnings in a way. And so I just felt that was very fitting for me transferring to a new school, going through the things I had gone through. And then I also had my dad's birthday kind of connected with that. So it gave it some special meaning in my heart. And honestly, it's my favorite number I've ever worn ever. I wish I would have been 17 like a long time ago. And I wish I was 17 still, but I had to kind of adapt and go to 71 in pro ball. So
Wow.
yeah, that's why I got 17. I got a number of lists or a list of numbers that I could choose from, and that was on there. And I was like, all right, let's roll with one of them. We got to have a number to play. So
Very cool. All right, last thing, as I mentioned earlier, Texas and OU are now in the league, and we know how good those programs are. We know week in and week out, SEC football, basketball, baseball, softball, it's a grind.
yeah.
How much more difficult are these 2 teams going to make it?
I think I wouldn't say it's going to make it a lot more difficult. If anything, it's going to be an advantage for the SEC schools just because, we don't really face that competition who runs, part of the softball community. Like they are the top of the list all the time. So being able to face them in a series and get eyes on them and then go to the World Series and compete against them is going to be an advantage for the SEC schools. I mean, we were rolling in there last year. You can only watch so much film on them, but if your players don't know or have never played against them, it makes it tough. You're in a new place, you're facing new people, and you're having to adjust in game, and you're playing in an area of 15,000 people, which is just tough as it is. So I think it's going to be an advantage for that, but it is going to be tough. Like you said, they're top of the chain right there all the time. So being able to compete with them and showing them like, okay, hey, the SEC doesn't play around. Like there's no easy weekends in the SEC. Like you have to be on your A game all the time. I was telling a high schooler that the other day. She's going to UCLA and I'm like, yeah, UCLA is tough. And I was like, you're going to place a lot of schools. And then her friend was like, oh, I'm going to Georgia. And I'm like, you better be ready. I'm like, not that UCLA is not good and a good place to be, but like Georgia, you're playing someone, a big dog, every weekend, and they have eyes on you all the time. I mean, people communicate, oh, hey, we play them next week, and can we get that scout card? Or, hey, can you tell us what your players are thinking on this? And then it just passes around the information. So, like, they have a lot of information on you and how they can try to beat you. So you got to be ready to go. But I think the biggest thing is just on the other side is seeing how Oklahoma and Texas respond to playing a very intense schedule every weekend. I think that's going to be a really cool thing to see. Not to discredit their, Big 12 or Big 10, but there were some weekends there that I wouldn't say, the top programs ever. So being able to compete against the SEC every weekend and challenge that, it's going to be really cool to see. And just seeing how much it's able to grow the sport and the impact it has is going to be unreal.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you taking the time. You had a tremendous career. We wish you a
Thank
lot
you.
of luck in your pro career. And
Thank you.
I see nothing but softball coach in your future. I just see it somewhere down the
I'm
road.
not gonna lie, I was looking up jobs last night, and IMG nearby. I live in St. Petersburg, it's about 45 minutes away, and they had an assistant coach posting on there, and I was like, hold on,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So I see it in my future too. I just don't know when that time is gonna come.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you. We appreciate